things God never created before the curse of Adam. Number 1, thorns and thistles. A common misconception is that everything was created in the first 7 days, but the curse actually brought about many things we see. Thorns and thistles is a major example. The world today is different from what it was in the Garden of Eden and after the flood. This change happened because of the fall of man, which changed everything and affected God's original creation. Immediately following this event, God spoke to Adam, saying, "Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, 'You shall not eat of it,' cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the herb of the field." Genesis chapter 3, verses 17 through 18. Because of Adam, the curse came on all creation. Before the curse, the ground only grew good things. But after the curse, while it still produced good, it also brought thorns and thistles that grew faster and easier than good fruit. The curse promised thorns and thistles, and we remember that Jesus was crowned with thorns. Matthew chapter 27, verse 29. This shows us how Jesus took on the curse for us. Before the curse, Adam worked happily in the Garden of Eden, but after the curse, work became hard and painful. Is there not a time of hard service for man on earth? Are not his days also like the days of a hired man? Like a servant who earnestly desires the shade, and like a hired man who eagerly looks for his wages. Job chapter 7, verses 1 through 2. Even though the curse took away Adam's easy life in paradise, it ensured he would still have what he needed to live. The ground would provide enough food for him to survive. From then on, he would have to work hard and sweat for his meals, but he would still have enough to eat and continue living. Even though the command took away the delicious fruits of paradise from Adam, it made sure he could still live. He would have to work hard, but the ground would provide enough plants for him to survive. From then on, all his food would come from his hard work, but he would still have enough to eat, and he would continue to live. One of the most powerful symbols of Christianity besides the cross is the crown of thorns that Jesus wore before he was crucified. The crown of thorns was used by Roman soldiers to humiliate Jesus. They dressed him up like a fake king. We are not exactly sure what kind of thorny plant was used, but many believe it was called Paliurus spina Christi. The crown was meant to cause pain. Thorns are part of the curse from Genesis chapter 3, verse 18, and often stand for sin in the Bible. Number 2, rain. Does the Bible say that the earth didn't get any rain until the flood in Noah's time? Could it be that the people had never seen rain before the earth was wiped out in the flood? 2 passages in the Bible seem to suggest this. And God said, "Let there be an expanse of the sky in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters below the expanse from the waters above the expanse." And God made the expanse of sky, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so, just as he commanded. Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 through 7. No shrub or plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprouted, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth. There was no man to cultivate the ground. Genesis chapter 2, verse 5. Some people believe that these verses teach that it didn't rain until the flood happened. Instead, the earth was watered by mist until the floodwaters came. They argue that the water for the flood came from the waters above, mentioned in Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 through 7. These waters were saved since the second day of creation. God didn't release these waters until he decided to destroy the world during Noah's time. Genesis chapter 7, verse 11. Before that, people had never seen rain. The rain that fell on the ark may have been the first rainstorm ever on earth. There are several pieces of evidence from the Bible that support this idea. First, there is no mention of rain on earth until the flood. The original earth and the Garden of Eden were watered by streams, rivers, and mist, not rain. These sources might have been filled by groundwater. Humidity and mist can still water plants today. Adam's job in the garden may have included helping to water the plants. Second, the vapor canopy that might have been around before the flood would have changed the climate a lot. It probably would have stopped rain showers from happening. With the same temperature all over the earth, there wouldn't have been big areas of high and low pressure that cause storms today. Once the canopy fell, rain would become something we see every day. Some people think that it rained before the flood, but the Hebrew word translated as mist in the King James Version is better understood as stream, like in the NIV. So, it paints a picture of an earth with lots of water from rivers to help the plants grow. This suggests that there was no rain before the fall, because there was enough water from the streams to keep the land green. However, this doesn't mean there was no rain after the fall. When sin came into the world, everything changed. Looking at the evidence, it seems the Bible tells us there was no rain in the Garden of Eden before the fall. The text doesn't explain what happened after the fall. While some argue that there was no rain until the flood, we shouldn't jump to that conclusion. The evidence doesn't give us clear answers. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7. By faith, with confidence in God and His Word, Noah, being warned by God about events not yet seen, in reverence prepared an ark for the salvation of his family. By this act of obedience, he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness which comes by faith. Some people think that Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7 means it had never rained before the flood. It says, by faith Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. The things not yet seen might mean rain, or it could be talking about the flood itself. Number 3, rainbow. In the Bible, the rainbow is a special sign of a promise that God made with everyone on earth. He promised never to destroy the earth with a flood again. The rainbow actually appears after it rains. God made this promise after the floodwaters went down and Noah and his family came out of the ark. God said, I will establish my covenant with you. Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the water of a flood, nor shall there ever again be a flood to destroy and ruin the earth. And God said, this is the token, visible symbol, memorial of the solemn covenant which I am making between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all future generations. I set my rainbow in the clouds, and it shall be a sign of a covenant between me and the earth. It shall come about, when I bring clouds over the earth, that the rainbow shall be seen in the clouds, and I will compassionately remember my covenant, which is between me and you, and every living creature of all flesh. And never again will the water become a flood to destroy all flesh. Genesis chapter 9, verses 11 through 15. God made a special promise called the covenant with everyone and their families, and with every animal too. He promised that he would never again destroy everything with a flood. This promise reminds us of what he said in Genesis 8. Thinking about this promise makes me feel really happy. I trust in God's faithfulness, and I know I'm not the only one who does. Every living creature on earth depends on this unchanging covenant of God. Because of this promise, the world is safe from floods. Without it, the highest mountains could be covered with water tomorrow. God did not think he did anything wrong or too harsh during the flood. He made a promise because he took actions in the world after the flood to make sure that the same bad conditions from before would never happen again. These actions included locking up the angels who sinned with human women, Jude 6, and reducing how long people would live. However, when the world starts to look like it did in the days of Noah, God will destroy the earth again, but this time with fire, not water. God made a promise, shown by the rainbow, not just to the people but to every living creature, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark, every living creature on earth. This promise lasts forever. God will never again send a worldwide flood. The rainbow is created by God. We naturally enjoy seeing it. There's something amazing about a rainbow appearing after a storm. It's good for us to celebrate the rainbow as a sign of God's faithfulness and mercy. The rainbow represents a special promise of protection from another worldwide flood. For Noah, it might have been the first time he saw a rainbow in the sky. A rainbow happens when raindrops are just the right size and the weather is unstable. Before the flood, the weather was likely very stable. Before the flood, if the earth didn't get rain, then building the ark must have seemed really silly to those who mocked Noah. But Noah's faith, as we see in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7, was incredibly strong. He was warned about things he couldn't see, which suggests that rain wasn't something people had ever known before. Even with all this information, we still don't have a clear answer about whether it rained before the flood. Number 4, Nephilim. Before the flood, there was an abomination that took place. A creature was born that embodied the entire plan of evil forces. It was a mixture of two beings that were not meant to come together. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, captivates many Bible readers because of the mysterious identity of both the sons of God and the Nephilim. There was a problem with ungodly intermarriage between the sons of God and the daughters of men during these days of rapid population expansion, primarily because of long lifespans in the pre-flood world. We can deduce why Satan sent his angels to intermarry with human women. Directly or indirectly, Satan attempted to pollute mankind's genetic pool with satanic corruption, planting something resembling a genetic pathogen in order to render the human race unfit to bear the seed of the woman, the Messiah, promised in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. The Savior could not be born of a demon-possessed mother, so if Satan could succeed in infecting the entire race, the deliverer could not come. When Satan came close to succeeding, the people had become so polluted that God decided to relaunch with Noah and his sons and imprison the demons who had polluted it so they could never do it again. Now it happened, when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and desirable. They took wives for themselves, whomever they chose and desired. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not strive and remain with man forever, because he is indeed flesh, sinful, corrupt, given over to sensual appetites. Nevertheless, his days shall yet be 120 years." They were Nephilim, men of stature, notorious men on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God lived with the daughters of men, and they gave birth to their children. They were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown, great reputation, fame. The Lord saw that the wickedness, depravity of man was great on the earth, and that every imagination or intent of the thoughts of his heart were only evil continually. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. God did not intend for the human race to remain in this rebellious state indefinitely. This means that our rejection of God has reached a point of no return. God will not woo us indefinitely. There will come a time when he will say, "No more." Yet his days will be 120 years. This is interesting, as the flood also happened 120 years after this announcement. We then read, giants on the earth in those days. Both pre-Christian Judaism and the early church held that the sons of God were spirit beings or angels who took human wives and gave birth to giants, known as the Nephilim. The view has become less prevalent today due to our modern dislike of the supernatural. While the everyday Christian may reluctantly embrace the Bible's teaching about Christ's virgin birth and resurrection, the idea of human and spirit-bred giants is just too far-fetched. But why were men all of a sudden so violent? Was it because the godly line mixed with the ungodly line? Or was it, at least in part, because humanity had mixed with spirit beings? I would like to argue for the latter. The three main perspectives on the identity of God's Son are as follows. First, they were fallen angels. Second, they were powerful human rulers. Or third, they were godly descendants of Seth intermarrying with wicked descendants of Cain. Arguments for the traditional view that the sons of God were spirit beings who mated with human women and produced the Nephilim are as follows. The fact that the phrase sons of God always refers to angels in the Old Testament lends support. Job chapter 1 verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God, angels, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan, adversary, accuser, also came among them. In all cases, the sons of God are spirit angelic beings, including Satan. The phrase's use in Job suggests that Genesis 6 is referring to spirits, angels. Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 through 2 contrasts the sons of God with man, implying that these are non-human beings. Genesis chapter 6 verse 1 says that man began to multiply, and daughters were born to them. The Hebrew word for man is the generic term for mankind, as used in Genesis chapter 5 verses 1 through 2. The sons of God are contrasted with man. Thus, the sons of God were distinct from man and married all mankind's daughters. As a result, the sons of God must be non-human beings of some kind.